Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela Wren. I'm a conservation specialist with Wake County Soil and Water Conservation District. This is our third Lunch and Learn talk on urban and suburban stormwater issues. Thank you all so much for being here today. We have two speakers for today's lecture titled Help, Grant Funding and Private Engineering. Our first speaker will be Ginell Rodgers from the Piedmont Conservation Council. She will talk about opportunities to fund your project with grant funds. Then Connor Brown with Kris Engineering. We'll talk about private engineering services and how an engineer can assist with your project. If you have any questions or comments during the presentations, please type them in the comment or chat box, whether you're viewing from YouTube or Facebook, and the speakers will answer them after the presentations during our Q&A. As a reminder, this Lunch and Learn series will continue every Tuesday for the months of June and July. To see what topics will be covered in the weeks to come, please visit wakegov.com/helplunch. With that, I will go ahead and hand it over to Ginell.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ginell Rodgers. I am the Executive Director with PCC, also known as Piedmont Conservation Council. I am excited to be able to talk to you briefly about what we do at PCC. So to be able to get started, PCC Conservation Council was established in 1967. We are a 501c3 organization that is basically located in Durham, North Carolina, but we were founded under the Resource Conservation and Development Program, which is RC&D. And we were initiated under the authority of the Food and Agriculture Act in 1967. Our mission is leveraging people and resources for innovation projects that promote conservation and sustainable communities. We currently have federal and also state-funded resources, and we service a 10-county region which is consistent of Alamance all the way to Rockingham and Wake counties of North Carolina. What PCC is known for, our consistent focus has been to address water quality and quantity issues within watersheds that lies between the Atlantic and coastal plain and main Appalachian mountains, plus work following agriculture and preservation development. There are about 5 major basins that we consistently do work in, and you see those listed there. And then I will give a couple of examples of the projects that we also are known for. So pictures, currently we have a Whittington project that is funded on the state level, which is doing water restoration, and same thing with Grove Park. These two are HOA communities that we are contracted again with the state and also current contractors to be able to restaurize these, do some restoration work with these streams. We also have some educational programs that we contract out as well. Currently, one we have funded through the Triangle Community Foundation. This program is actually located in Orange and Chatham County, and this is our outdoor science lab. Next, we also have a Beech Tree Black Creek restoration project, and we have partners currently with Wake County Soil and Water District. We have our partner Kris Engineering and Fluvial Solutions. They help us do the groundwork there, and we are actually funded with the North Carolina Land and Water Fund, in the North Carolina 319, and then also the HOA match. So one of the questions I hear a lot is, how do one of you get in contact with us in reference to a potential project or need some assistance with a project? Our council members consist of a representative with each county, as the ones that was mentioned earlier today. Normally, the council members will bring potential projects to our board meetings. We would actually talk about those particular projects and what fundings may be available to be able to help you assist with what particular project you need assistance with. All of our council members, again, are spread out in those 10 counties, but we're all skilled in just the work that we provide to the community. Each one of our council members understand that there's different fundings that are available to carry out your project. And so in order to be able to actually go through the grant funds, we will actually sit down to look at the actual design of the project, the construction of the project, create a timeline, which can be anywhere from a year to 3 years to actually get a project developed, but also spend some time to actually do the grant writing and also to be able to get the contract as well and be able to implement it. And I would like to go back a little bit to the Black Creek Restoration Project. Connor, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Is there any information you can give in reference to this particular contract? Since you guys work with us, you're Kris Engineering, but you work with us in reference to this project. Can you give a little bit about what you do with us?
Right, so we came in, the company Kris Engineering has been involved with the area for several years doing some smaller scale projects as the HOA has kind of asked for some help in their watershed. But the big project that you're talking about here, this restoration has been a large push by the HOA. Their HOA, Peachtree HOA, is well over 150 members, and looking to make a big positive impact on the reach of stream and ponds they have nearby. So it's been a unique opportunity that's we're getting close to construction on it, but originally it's, as you see on the right there on the graphic that you have, they have over half a mile of streams that, is extreme urbanization, a couple of old farm ponds that are in rough shape, showing, the stream showing signs of degradation. And we've got a nice opportunity, in working with you guys as well as the HOA and securing some of these grant funds to really do a large scale project. I think we've got 1,000 feet plus of stream restoration work, some stormwater conveyance, several hundred feet, and breaching some of those dams. And working in conjunction with you guys and with the HOA and applying and getting these grant funds and has really elevated the project a good bit to be able to do a lot more than what was originally conceivable. So it's a good opportunity.
Definitely, thank you for that. We don't do a lot of the hands-ons as far as understanding all of the specs. That's what we have you guys as engineers to help us create this design and understand what that looks like. But bringing the project or the example to PCC, we actually walk the grounds of the locations with our engineers and contractors just to be able to see the work that goes into the actual project. As a grant writer, it's helpful for me to be able to see what the issues are, to be able to communicate that in writing in that particular grant proposal, but then also to put together a proposal to bring to our council members. Again, with our county reps, they are more familiar with some of the challenges that are faced with you all as homeowners and just some of the streams in general. Stream restoration is not my background, but managing grants is. So just being able to understand what the needs are, what the funders are looking for in reference to the writing, what outcomes measures that we're actually going to present or try to solve, all of those information, all of those points goes within the proposal. And then sometimes it could take a little while to be able to understand if we're going to have all of the projects, covered on behalf of one funding source, or sometimes there's multiple funding sources that will go in to a particular project like this Peachtree Black Creek restoration project to actually have the dream come alive. So that's one of the reasons why I indicated on the slide that you'll see funders like the North Carolina Land and Water Fund, the North Carolina 319, and then the match to be able to help to really put the project together. So definitely, if there's a project that you have in mind, or you have a challenge in mind that you really want to present to your council or to the PCC as a council, definitely contact your local county government soil and water conservation department. As again, we have board members that sit in this particular department or associated with this department that can actually talk to you and get more insight on what your project idea is. Once that happens, they will contact myself or our board chair or another council member to bring that project to us. We will do a little bit of research on the project. I may go out and also see the project just so I can have some understanding. We'll put together a proposal or a form of all of the interests that's going to be invested, what the project will actually seek to implement or to fix. And then we will have a huge meeting with our council members to discuss the projects in detail and also any funding that will go with it. We will also bring our partners together. So that would be HOA, landowners. That would also be any partners that will actually be of assistance to carry out this project. And then again, look at those funding sources. I can be reached at Ginell, which is GINELL at piedmontconservation.org. Again, that's Ginell, GINELL at piedmontconservation.org. Thank you. Connor, I think you're up.
Thank you so much, Ginell, for that presentation. Next up, yes, we do have Connor from Kris Engineering. And so I'll give him a second to get his presentation shared.
All right, I think we're good to go. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. Like was said, my name is Connor Brown. I'm a stormwater engineer with Kris Engineering. I'm going to be talking about private engineering opportunities in stormwater, kind of how to work with private engineering firms, what to expect, and some projects that we've done for homeowners, and just kind of walk through what that looks like. So, outline of the brief presentation I'll give. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about Kris Engineering, what we do. Like I said, talk about some example residential projects, go into some of the permanent requirements that are required for those kind of projects, go into a little bit of depth about other ways to fund projects, and then give a shout out to some of the government and nonprofit partners that we work with often, and kind of wrap up by going into, if you have a project, kind of some food for thought, things to keep in mind before really getting started. And then I know that we have all our questions right at the end for both presentations. So a little bit more about the company. We at Kris Engineering is a small private engineering firm in Cary, North Carolina. We do a little bit of everything with water, stormwater design inspections. We do stream and wetland restoration, computer modeling work for both those types of designs, dam and barrier renewal, as well as construction oversight for all our projects. We really like to be well versed in overseeing the construction of our designs to make sure they go onto the ground and are constructed as close to design as possible. We have experience in really all over the triangle. We have worked in Wake County, City of Raleigh jurisdiction, Cary, Durham, Chapel Hill, Greensboro, Winston-Salem. As far as scope of projects, we again kind of dip our toes in a little bit of everything. We've done, we do backyard residential single family home projects all the way up to federally funded large scale grant projects. So what I'm going to show a few example stormwater projects, specifically some small scale ones that happened on residential lots. This first one is in Wake County from several years ago. It was the construction of a small rain garden in their front yard. The reason that they pursued this project was for the ability to go past and increase their impervious area. Most every lot, when it's sold, has a set impervious limit in square footage that can't be exceeded, with the exception being that if you were going to exceed or want to make an addition, impervious area also is everything from your roof area, your concrete driveway, concrete sidewalks, patios. If you were trying to go over that limit, then some of the square footage has to be mitigated in runoff. The runoff has to be mitigated in a stormwater device. And that's what this project was for. With this inlet coming in from one of the downspouts of the roof, this rain garden is essentially just a vegetated basin that helps detain some of the runoff and lets it infiltrate into the ground rather than running downstream. Another example, similar situation, this time in Raleigh's jurisdiction. Same goal was in mind. They had a patio that was set up in the back behind their yard, and that put them over their impervious allowance in square feet for their lot. Why I wanted to highlight this one is because it shows some of the constraint that every project is going to have some constraints and difficulties, but it doesn't prevent you from putting together a good solution. The only space that this homeowner had available was in this very steep stretch right by their driveway. But we worked with a landscape contractor that has experience in hardscaping to design a retaining wall to overcome that, that vertical challenge. But similar situation for goal in the design. Last stormwater project example. It all goes back to the same thing. This was a new development house in Raleigh. And when they built the house, they went over the impervious limit right off the bat. They needed to mitigate that, but this shows it doesn't all have to be, earthwork and hardscape solutions. They opted to go for a rain barrel, a cistern, to capture some of the roof runoff generated and detain it in the cistern and eventually slowly release it downstream into a small vegetated area. So there's multiple options for residential stormwater projects that can be done. And the last example project I want to show switches gears a little bit. Streams are in the same vein as stormwater, but it's the next most common thing that we get contacted for from residential homeowners is houses that back straight up to a stream. Urbanized streams very subjected to erosion, stream bank failure. You can see on this before picture. Real vertical banks that, subject to erosion, lots of debris and trash, unsightly. Contacted us, they wanted to improve the aesthetic of their property, but also protect their yard. I mean, they were actively losing yard. So we came in and, using natural channel design principles, and, we can create both an aesthetically pleasing and ecological positive solution out of it, and mitigate that, that bank failure slope, and make it a feature for your property that's, stable and, aesthetically pleasing. So I want to talk briefly about permitting requirements, because that's one of the things that catches homeowners off guard a lot. Is they have an idea, in their head for a project they want to do, and then they don't realize the permitting battle that happens behind the scenes. First, in talking about stream related projects like the one I just showed in the past slide, if you have a stream in the backyard and you're thinking about wanting to do some work on it, first thing to do is understand the determination of the stream. There's 3 stream determinations: ephemeral, intermittent, or perennial. Ephemeral streams only flow when it's raining or shortly after. It's basically a drainage ditch. Intermittent streams flow for a portion of the year but are dry during the rest of the year, and perennial streams have a constant base flow in them whether it's raining or not, for the most part year round. The reason that determination is important is because 2 governing agencies that are permitting agencies that we have to work with is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the USACE, and the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, their Water Resources Division. Both of them oversee and permit and allow the work that happens in all intermittent and perennial streams. Any work that involves the discharge into those streams, involve earthwork in those streams, impacting the area around that stream, all go through them for intermittent and perennial streams. Thankfully, both of these agencies work in conjunction with each other. They operate using the same application when you submit for a project. However, for our clients, for Kris Engineering, we often will act as the agent and submit this application for them. It asks for some information that's pretty technical, talking about the design plans as well as impacts to the streams that you're proposing. So it's something that we take on for our clients. Often it's more of a headache than most homeowners want to deal with themselves. And there's often iterations of permitting submittals that have to be done as comments are addressed. That's for streams, for stream related projects. For stormwater projects that aren't about streams, about runoff, about, having erosion issues from downspouts or whatever it may be, fall into a couple categories. First, some people do it just as, there's a drainage issue from their property. They want to improve the aesthetics, but they're not being told they have to do it. That subset of projects can sometimes, it has the most opportunity, the highest chance of not needing as much permitting, or any in some cases. The first pictures that I showed of the stormwater projects that we're talking about, impervious area offset, those types of projects require local municipality permitting, whether it be, city of Raleigh or otherwise. Those increases to impervious allowance as well as that stormwater device go down in writing, permanent stormwater easement in perpetuity that have to be maintained. So that involves a little bit more permitting on that front. Ginell talked about, the grant side of funding projects. Some other ways that we see projects funded for residential projects, obviously individually funded, out of pocket of the homeowner. There is opportunity if you have an HOA, or if the problem area that you're identifying maybe impacts multiple homeowners, to reach out to those, neighbors, see if you can group fund, a larger budget for a project, or reach out to HOA. Sometimes we'll be willing to, work with you and contribute or take over part of the fees. There are a few reimbursement programs. I'm learning about them as they, pop up, but one that comes to mind is in City of Raleigh, the Raleigh Rainwater Rewards Program. There are some stipulations, but they can, in some cases, reimburse homeowners up to 90% of project totals, so long as, they meet the requirements. And then, like I said, like was said before, there are different grant programs. They're competitive, but they, it's good money to be used for larger projects, high impact projects. It can result in longer timelines on projects, and there are, restrictions, but it's also a good way for those larger projects or high impact projects to secure funds. And as was mentioned, that, grants is where the predominant amount of the funding for the Beech Tree project that was mentioned is coming from. I'll touch briefly, we just to list them out, we work with several government and nonprofit partners in our projects, Nature Conservancy, Piedmont Conservation Council, Wake Soil and Water Conservation District, Partners for Environmental Justice, to name a few. And last, to get started, if you have a project in mind, or a problem that's presenting itself in stormwater or your stream that backs up on your house, these are really my recommendations to ease the process, to be on the same page with any professionals that you involve with the project. First is to evaluate the problem, really look at the magnitude, if it's progressing over time, if it's more of an aesthetic issue versus it threatening part of your property. After that, that's when you can reach out to a professional if you want to. Site visits are always beneficial. Get on the same page as anyone that you're trying to bring on to the project. Discuss your goals, kind of your expectations. And as a subset of that is understanding the timeline for these projects and some cost expectations. It's good to try to be as upfront about that with engineers or other firms that you bring on. In addition to permitting, this is what catches some homeowners off guard, is how long some of these projects can take, and some of the costs that are associated with it, especially if it's, they're paying for it just out of their own pocket. So just be aware of that, and be upfront if you have a budget in mind for this project, and that'll keep everyone kind of more on the same page. That's met, and you can sign project proposals, designs can start, and eventually construction ultimately can begin when all relevant permits are secured for the project. If you bring on a contractor, you get bids from various contractors and you select a contractor, and that's when ground can be broken. So I know we're going to do a full question session Q&A, but this is my contact information, as well as my boss, Kris, who is the principal of the company. I'm best reached by email, which is listed there. For project inquiries, my boss is Kris, is the one to contact. He's good by email or phone, or just general questions about how to proceed on drainage projects or drainage issues that you may have. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Connor. And thank you for bringing up grants or the permitting process. I think that's an important component of stream work. For anyone that's tuning in, we did have Lyle Phillips from Army Corps of Engineers present on that topic 2 weeks ago on June 15th. So if you're interested in getting more details about the permitting process, you can watch that recording. And then I know, Connor, you also mentioned the Rainwater Rewards Program. We also have Justin Harcum join us next week to present on that topic as well. So I will look to see if we have any questions that have come in. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to use the chat box. Whether you're watching from YouTube or Facebook, you can type those comments in and for the presenters to answer. I'll give everyone a minute to see if some questions come through. I have not seen any questions at this time. So unless y'all have any questions for each other. But if not, I will wrap it up. Thank you, Ginell and Connor, for both of your informative presentations. Also, thank you to everyone who attended today. If there were any questions that you didn't get a chance to type in the chat box, please feel free to email us at, I'll type this in the chat box, but swcd@wakegov.com. That is our main email address. You can send those questions there, and I'll try to answer them, or we'll relay them to the presenters to answer. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.